Welcome to the Macros for Life podcast, where we talk all things macros, business, and marriage. We're your hosts, Eve and Randall Guzman. Visit our website at www.gtransformationacademy.com, where you can download our free How to Track Macros guide. This guide has helped over 15,000 people start their macro tracking journey.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Macros for Life podcast. We are really excited to talk to you guys today because we have a guest speaker this week, and her name is Dal. She is someone that has lost 110 pounds naturally and has progressed to becoming a nutrition coach so that she can help other people navigate the same type of journey. She is someone that also is very vocal about her journey and how she had to basically learn that she didn't have to sacrifice her personal self while parenting and hitting her goal, and shares a lot about the responsibilities of motherhood while honoring the goals that you have. So super excited to have you here today.
Oh, super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself. How did you get into nutrition coaching? And then we can also dive into your weight loss journey.
Okay, yeah. So I have been yo-yo dieting for 2+ decades. That has been the story of my life, past tense. And I got into nutrition coaching because, like, one day I literally woke up and said, "This is enough. I can't do this anymore." And pursued this journey of inner healing, introspective work, just working on things that I knew that I had to face, things that I had been suppressing with food. I used food as a coping mechanism, and just a lot of emotional eating over the years, chased quick fixes. And so this time, when I went about it, I told myself I was going to do it the right way, long way, even though I spent 2 decades doing it. So for the last 2 years, I've been working on myself, just inside and out. And through the process, working with my coach, I got into nutrition coaching, and I just immersed myself in it. Like, I was so interested because I was finally learning about evidence-based nutrition, and that was a game changer. So, yeah, that just led me into wanting to help others and realizing that I had this passion to do this and the potential to do this, having gone through it myself. And so here we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know the big thing that changed for you was to like stop going after diets that you considered to be quick fixes. And I think you do a really good job on your page talking about the fact that quick fixes are never quick. Can you talk about that a little bit and what that looked like for you?
Yeah. And this is just it. Like, quick fixes for me were just chasing anything that would give me the results in like 2 weeks or a month or 2 months. And sometimes it took longer. And, even though I stuck with it, and I got the results, I would always revert back to my old ways. Um, and so maybe it's just something that, like, I try to reflect on why I was doing that. And it was more so not knowing. Obviously, we can get into all of these other things like diet culture and what we're exposed to and whatnot. But I also didn't want to face what I was dealing with internally either. So for me, this was, hey, like, let's try this out. And I would just do that, and I would either succeed or not succeed, but every single time I was back to my old ways and patterns, and that happened for 2 decades. So when we look at quick fixes, sure, they're quick in the moment, but when you really reflect back, so many of us women have spent years, like decades, doing this to ourselves when
Mhm.
really we could have just done it the longer way, which, like, for me took 2 years. But really, when you look at it as a whole, 2 years is nothing compared to spending 2 decades doing that. And I've done everything, like, you name
Mhm.
it, I've done it. Yeah, I'm not sure what I was thinking, but I'm still working on that.
I mean, that's like most of us. Like,
Yeah.
And people have come to me, they're like, oh my gosh, you've lost 100 pounds. I'm struggling to lose 10. And people probably say the same thing to you. And I always tell them, I lost 10 pounds, then then gained it, then lost, then gained. I said, I've lost probably 100 pounds twice. And I saw one of your posts that said, like, you've lost the same 40 to 60 pounds, like lost and
Yeah.
gained over 2 decades.
Yeah, 100%. And that's just it. Like like you said, I've been there. I've done that, just losing it and then regaining it, and regaining even more and being in an even worse position than I was initially. And what these quick fixes do, is that they actually create more problems and more
Mhm.
issues, and you develop, the all or nothing like, I know for me, the all or nothing mentality, and the way I perceive myself and the way that I would talk to myself. So it just created more issues than anything else
Yeah.
besides the weight gain.
Mhm.
You know, so yeah.
Yeah. I think when people do the diets, they're like so desperate to get down, like you're willing to do anything, and then it becomes unsustainable. So then you can't keep up with it. And to kind of like get behind like the psychology and the science behind it, like you said, it's usually all or nothing. And so you might get to the point where you're like, I can't do this anymore. You might get to a point of self sabotage. Some of the science behind it is like, the easy part is like you get hungry. Your body can only be in a deep deficit if that's the way you went for so long. Your leptin and ghrelin levels are basically combating each other. And I don't think people really realize that our body is made to go, you're hungry or you're not hungry. And when you get so low in calorie consumption every day, if it is like a quick fix, your hunger levels go up really, really quickly. You find yourself eating things that are adding up in calories really fast. You don't even know it. So sometimes your hunger is twice as strong, which is hard to ignore because it's like
Right.
physically and then mentally gnawing away at you. You've given up so much stuff. So the cookie, like you could ignore 2 weeks ago, was like, now I've got to have two cookies.
Yeah.
And then that fat regain part, which I invite people to look up, look up body fat set point. Sometimes our bodies don't really like to stop regaining weight till we hit the fat percentage we were at before, and then sometimes we shoot past it. So like a lot of people will lose 40 and then they'll gain 70 back.
Right.
And that's what happens. And that's why they call it a yo-yo diet. Like you're just bouncing back and forth. And the long way or the right way to me ends up being the shortest way because the weight
Exactly.
stays off. And then there's like less of the psychological. But like you said, if there's like anything like trauma, or like I used to emotionally eat to fill voids that I didn't have. And some of them were simple. Sometimes I was bored and I would just overeat. I had nothing to do. I didn't
Yeah.
fill my time with anything else. And I'm like, I'm bored. I filled the gap with eating. Sometimes it's emotions, trauma. I mean, there's so many things, but the quick things, they just don't work. They never last.
They don't. They're not sustainable. Like you can't. And I've been talking about this more recently too. It's, what you eat, in a fat loss phase is what you should be eating in maintenance.
Mhm.
Besides our portions and whatnot, and staying in, certain ranges. And so for me, I know, coming from my culture, like I like eating certain foods that I grew
Mhm.
up with. I love eating. I'm South Asian, so a lot of curries and, flatbreads and, things like that. And the key was to include those things, because why are we going to eat chicken, broccoli, rice just to lose the weight? And a lot of these restrictive diets, they were very structured. They told you what to eat, how much to eat, and it wasn't necessarily that something that you enjoyed. And I mean, let's be real, like we still have to enjoy our food. I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm like that. I love food, like I really
Mhm.
do. And so, I learned to prepare the food that I had growing up in ways that, are just healthier, like not using butter and lots of oil and whatnot. And so preparing them was key for me, and including them in my diet. And I think that's something that a lot of people from different cultures struggle with,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so that's a huge issue. And I'm finding that when I talk to people in my culture, especially, they're like, "Oh, really? You can have that? We can have roti, which is just a flatbread." I'm like, "Yeah, it's
I
just
love
like
it.
bread or or a tortilla. It's just a different form of a
Yeah.
tortilla, right?"
Hmm.
Um, and lentils, we just prep them a little bit differently, but they're just lentils. And
Hmm.
so yeah, so that was huge when we talk about restrictive diets, or these yo-yoing back between extreme things and not. And so this time when I did it, I said, you know what, hey, I'm going to eat the things I want to eat. And
Hmm.
that was a game changer. So
Yeah, that was one of the game changers for me is I felt like I was doing everybody else's diet, whether it
mm,
was like slim fast or packaged foods, or like, this was when I think Pinterest was like just becoming popular. Like the last meal plan I did, I found it like on Pinterest, and it was like what you named. It was like you only eat these things, and like oatmeal.
yeah.
I grew up eating oatmeal, but I hated it because I was forced to eat it. And all of these plans were like egg whites and oatmeal for breakfast
Mm.
or tilapia. I never grew up eating tilapia. Like, I never, and it's like bake it or steam it. I grew up on fried fish. That's kind
Okay.
of the
Yeah.
fish like it was fried, whether it was
Yeah.
battered or not, like it ended up in hot oil. That's like what we ate. And I felt the same way of like, I don't even eat this stuff. And
Right.
that was one of the biggest reasons of why my weight yo-yoed back and forth, because I was pairing a calorie deficit with foods I typically don't eat. And so that calorie difference was humongous. And that's why I was losing weight fast, because there was like less pizza, less fried stuff, some of my fun snacks. Like I loved bread, loved sandwiches, and I had to cut all the bread out.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, I had to kind of be like, what is like scientifically happening? But like you, I couldn't stay eating those foods because they were not what I ate. And so I started a calorie reduction on what I just like to eat. And I was like, I'll figure out the rest later because I wasn't
Yeah.
eating a lot of vegetables, but I just couldn't eat these things people were saying that I should eat, and I would just give up. Like once I had what I considered real food, like it was kind of like peace out. I was done.
Yeah.
I
For
was done.
sure.
So I
For
know
sure.
you definitely do. I know you promote like 80/20 eating. Can
I
you
do.
explain like how you might explain that to like a brand new client that's never, kind of played around with like different portions of things and kind of the psychology of like all foods are okay, but let's look at how we're eating them. So how would you explain 80/20?
So, and for even for myself, when I first started, I didn't focus on the quality of my food. I just focused on the quantity,
Mhm.
because like this whole process, it's just one step at a time, right? And but that one step at a time, just doing it consistently. And so that was huge for me. And not being overwhelmed by so many things at once. And so, yeah, talking to a client, I will reflect back on that. And I think that's huge, just telling them that, listen, let's just start focusing on obviously protein, right? So that's number one. I will include that initially. Let's just focus on protein, and let's focus on just eating what you enjoy, and slowly we'll start to shift towards more whole foods, and explaining that to them, but all being done just step by step, because if
Mhm.
you're going to bombard a client with everything all at once, that's like kind of like the all or nothing mentality, feeding on that, and I don't want that. So to them, this is how I explain it, is basically, hey, let's just focus on this, and eventually we're going to get to a point. This all will happen. You will get there, but you have to go through the process. And let's just focus on protein for now. And just focusing on protein, I mean, they're going to be full more, right? They're going to be
Mhm.
more satiated. They're not going to
Yep.
want to gravitate towards other types of foods, or more highly palatable foods, processed foods, and then slowly incorporating the whole foods. So like rice, potatoes, things like that, vegetables. And if you're not eating vegetables, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, let's incorporate some fruit,
Yeah.
right? So
Hmm.
yeah, so it's just a step-by-step thing and working with the client based on my personal mantra has always been like, let's work with or work within the parameters of my life. So that's how I kind of work with my clients. Let's work within the parameters of your life and see how we can start this, how you can stick to this, and how this can be sustainable for you. So,
Hmm.
yeah, enjoy the foods that you love too. I mean, at some point, like where I'm at right now, I feel like I'm there. I'm at the 80-20 where I can enjoy the foods I love and just have fun. Like life should not meant to be is not meant to be restrictive, right? Food
Yeah.
brings us joy. Like
Yeah.
we surround ourselves with it, we socialize around it. And so, yeah, I feel like it might not like be 80-20 in the beginning, but eventually you will get there.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
know that like you're a mom and I know you do attract a lot of moms and I think that approach is really doable for them because if they did like the things that we used to do, like a brand new meal plan, foods we typically don't eat. And typically if the mom's not eating them, the kid is probably not eating those too. And then their biggest fear, I think, of like starting brand new on Monday or starting new on like April 1st is now I've got two menus in the household. And with like your process of like, let's think about adding versus taking away and completely making a
Right.
brand new, list for the pantry, the freezer, all of that. When you're adding one goal at a time, one food instead of restricting everything, I think it's more doable for moms that are already trying to get kids to eat things they won't eat already.
Oh, 100%. And with kids, it's hard to make two separate meals, and I don't do that anymore. So I just tend to do the best I can with what I have. And we don't even with kids. I think that moms just get too caught up in what we see on social media today. Oh, they need to be eating this, or they need to have this, or like no, they don't. Just give them a variety of foods that you would eat and model that for them. I eat sandwiches with vegetables in it, well they eat sandwiches without, but sometimes they'll ask for it. So hey, like there you go, you're eating the same thing but it's just different, right?
Mhm.
I will prepare them a plate. We call it picnic lunch or picnic breakfast, and it's just I don't know, throw together like three or four different things and put them on a plate and they eat it. And so I'm not spending a lot of time prepping for them individually and then myself. So we do tend to eat similar things. It just makes it easier. I know
Mhm.
for a mom, and ingredient prepping, um, and having that 80-20, just having that flexibility. It's huge with kids. Because you
Mhm.
will be out, right? You're going to be out with your kids, and sometimes you're not going to be prepared. As much as we say, "Hey, have this on hand, have this on hand." Sometimes that doesn't happen, and so hey, like you do what you have to do. So for sure, for with moms, I think that 80-20 is huge.
Mhm. Did you ever have any mom guilt when you started your journey, feeling like you were taking away from them, whether it was like learning, being on a coaching call, going to the gym, or working out at home and saying, like, not now?
Yeah, all the time, especially in the beginning. I would think that like, oh, can I take this time for myself? Should I be with them right now? Should we be doing something instead? But what I and then also though, I'll say that yes, I did think that, but also it was almost an excuse as well not to do the thing.
Hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And so that was one of the things that I had to look at, like why I wasn't taking the action that I needed to take. So I think I was using it as an excuse as well. But once I got into it and started focusing more on my self-care and prioritizing myself, I did have those feelings initially. And then over time I started to realize, no, this is great. Like I am modeling this behavior for them. They're seeing me work out, they're seeing me being active, and now getting into coaching. And because I was off on maternity leave from my job previously, but now I'm into coaching here full time. And my son will ask, "Oh, you're always on your computer, or you have another meeting," and I just have to tell myself, well, like this is what I'm doing for me as well. Like I love to do this, and this is my
Mhm.
job. And so the mom guilt's there. I think a lot of moms experience it, and um, we just have to see it as something that's going to be beneficial for them. So if we can show up as the best versions of ourselves, then they're going to be the best versions of themselves. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
just as a natural byproduct. So that mom guilt, yeah, no, not so much anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
initially a lot of it for sure.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
like for the moms listening, just so you guys know, when you're like in that feeling of like, I've got guilt, am I doing enough? Am I taking away and this or that? You're not going to get confirmation all the time from your kids that you are doing the right thing. But when you do, it might be only like twice a year that they say something, or maybe you see them making a good choice. You will have that moment of like, I'm doing the right thing. This just confirms it. Like the way that my daughter eats is a complete reflection of how I changed the way that I, am eating. Because she was
Right.
a major reason of why I made the change. But like, she's not telling me at 3, I'm proud of you, mom, because you
Yeah.
brought apples home and I really wanted Pop Tarts. She's not going to tell you that. But when you see it later, you're like, okay, like this paid off, but you just have to like keep going. It's kind of like weight loss to kind of
Yep.
get the confirmation that you're doing the right things. Nutritionally, actively in front of your kids, it's going to be way down the road that you learn, okay, I've been doing the right thing. Like it's reflecting, they're mirroring back, but you just have to keep going. Like it is the best thing. It is.
Oh, for sure. And like so I'm first generation Canadian, and my parents immigrated here. And so, I saw my mom, and I grew up in a culture that was very we put everyone else first, and we do everything for everyone else before we do anything for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that, it was by choice, because they had a lot of factors working against them. So it's not necessarily that they chose to not put themselves first. Could be a lack of education, lack of awareness, lack of, means, just socioeconomic things. Just there's so many factors that I understand. But to this day and age, I feel like we have so much available at our fingertips. And a lot of us come from pretty good backgrounds, and we don't have those excuses.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as moms, yes, I dealt with that a lot, like the people pleasing mentality, and always doing things for others. But I had to, like with everything, my whole journey, I had to take a step back and look at the narratives I was telling myself, and, really reflect on, well, that's not the case anymore. And I'm just telling myself that, or I have been, um, based on just my experience and all these years protecting myself from whatever it is that I felt like I needed, just to be
Mm-hmm.
safe. But we're not living in that world anymore. And so I think that we can put ourselves first, and we have the means to do that. And we just need to take a step back as moms and just say, hey, like, yeah, let's do this. We can do this for ourselves. Let's stop treating ourselves like that. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you wrote a really good post about like being a parent doesn't mean that you have to just like sacrifice yourself.
yeah, yeah, and I didn't see that prior to, but I've definitely see that now. Like, we don't have to sacrifice our health and wellness for our kids. Yeah, our kids are everything. I know I come from a culture where for my parents, we're everything to them. Their grandkids are everything to them, and that's what they live
Mm-hmm.
for. So I get it, but we're nothing to them if we're not, if we have the opportunity to take care of ourselves and do the things that we can, within the parameters of our life. And if we choose not to or don't do that, then, we're not really taking full advantage of our situation. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I feel like, even with kids, activities, overscheduling kids, again, that still comes to you, like, still comes back to you. It's a choice,
Oh my
right?
gosh, yeah. Oh my gosh, I see
Like,
that so much.
I
And I started to
know.
fall prey to that. Like we moved into like what I would call kind of like, the well-to-do area. It was a pretty nice wealthy area when we were in Indiana and we met our neighbors. And one of the things my neighbor said was like, get ready for it to get super competitive and your life is going to change. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you live out here where the culture is everybody's doing everything. It's going to be like martial arts, karate, soccer, basketball, violin. And I'm like, I don't get it. She's like, just wait. And then I kind of saw that and I like my husband and me together to put our foot on the brakes of like, we don't need to overschedule them in everything. And it became seasons of how many things are they doing the things they want to do, but like, do I have time to work out? What's our schedule? And so
Right.
like it had to be a balance. And so, so many people live through their kids and then we'll get applications and probably you too of women in their late 30s to late 40s going, I'm about to be an empty nester. I don't know what to do. My whole life was my kids. They did all the things. Where do I start?
Yeah. Well, this is just it, right? And I mean, again, why are we overscheduling them? It's this one thing I learned through my journey. I really feel this is that like, I just the zero F's, like I have stopped caring about what other people think. I do not live by society's expectations, standards anymore, and I will do what I want to do and what suits me. And I, I, I kind of, well, I do that with my children as well. You got to do swimming, essential skill, one other sport. That's it. Like I was just joking yesterday or the other day with someone, like I'm not going to be your personal little chauffeur, taking you everywhere all day. um, and they need to learn to live in boredom. Like we were talking about this. I mean, just like us as women, struggling with weight issues or whatever we're struggling with, like sit in discomfort, sit in your boredom, figure it out, do some self reflection, right? So, yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I laugh because I saw something the other day that one of my friends shared, and she's a nutrition coach, and it was something where her daughter got iPad or phone taken away. And she was like, what do you even do when you have nothing to do? I'm so bored. And she was like, when I was your age, I would squirt Elmer's glue all over my hand and let it dry. And it was so cool to peel it off. And she was like, what?
What?
She was like, that's what we did when we were bored. We didn't have electronics. And I'm like, it was definitely hilarious. But I think, yeah, people, kids, everybody, they do get uncomfortable to kind of just like sit in their thoughts and stuff.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Hmm.
Emotional eating, right?
Hmm. So I've got a good question for you that
Sure.
I'm dying to know the answer of. It's not, don't get nervous. It's not like earth shattering.
Yeah.
But I've lost a lot of weight, but it's kind of a while ago now, and you've lost your weight more recently. Do you get questions from clients, followers, Instagram, Facebook, whatever? Do people ask you, should I lose the weight first and do cardio, or and then lift later? Do you get that question? Like, what should be
Um,
my approach to losing a lot of weight because they're admiring you and kind of wanting to know what route to go.
okay, well, I had a significant amount of weight to lose, of course. And so initially, I just focused again, like on my eating and tracking because physically, it was hard for me to do anything. It was
Mhm.
hard for me to even go for a walk. Going up the stairs was difficult. So I guess it just depends on where you're at and what your individual, circumstances are and goals. But for me, that was important that I think I lost about 50 pounds before I started walking,
Mhm.
more than just around the house and your regular daily stuff with the kids. And then I started walking. And then I felt more comfortable actually to start getting into strength training. And that's when I started training with Andrew, actually. Um, so when people do ask me, I find that a lot of women don't want to, they're kind of in a place again where they just want to start with one thing. That's what I found so far. And so for me, I found it easier to focus on nutrition before getting into strength training. There might be others that can do both, or others that may want to exercise, even before they really focus on their nutrition. So I have found that women want to do the nutrition thing and just focus on that. And then I do really encourage strength training, though. I really
Yeah.
do, because I know how important it is. I know how important
Mhm.
muscle is. And if we can't get to the strength training quite yet, it's okay, nutrition and protein, protein, protein. Like, let's preserve that muscle, what you do have. So, yeah, people, I find like they're not necessarily asking about the strength training or working out as much. So we focus on the nutrition and just getting active. Start with something you like. If it's walking, walk. You know, if
Yeah.
it's yoga, I have a client who does yoga. Yeah, you know what? Just do yoga. And I will keep just putting that out there. Okay, you know, one day let's get into strength training. So that's how I approach it. I approach it like just based on their individual circumstances. And I find more of them would rather just focus on nutrition in the beginning. So it's something that, you know, you kind of ease into, or you can, and not like doing everything all at once either and getting overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
And now, a word from our sponsor. Macros for Life is brought to you by Macro Mentorship. Macro Mentorship is a NASM, ISSA, and AFAA approved CEU group coaching program and business course. Macro Mentorship is for existing and aspiring health coaches that want to become certified macro nutrition coaches. We have helped over 1,200 coaches to date. Join the waitlist now at www.themacrouniversity.com. Again, that's www.themacrouniversity.com. And now back to Macros for Life.
So I wanted you to answer this without me saying anything.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
No, but you answered what
Yeah.
I thought. Like, I definitely assumed that you did nutrition, then any kind of movement, and then lifting.
Yes.
And guess what? I don't know how long you've been following me, but that was exactly what I did.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
talk about the right way,
Yeah.
but like I literally like just like went back to my old self when you said that, because I couldn't move. I could barely move. I was a
Exactly.
size 24. Everything rubbed. Like, even when we went to
Yeah.
events, I wanted to be like the first in or the last in, because I didn't want people to see. I waddled. Like, I'm 5'1". Like, I waddled in there.
Yep.
And it
Yep.
was uncomfortable. So I did lose like the first 40 to 60 from nutrition. The next 20 doing like 10-pound dumbbells at home, because I was ashamed. Like, I just
Yeah.
still had body dysmorphia. You know, I was down 60 pounds, but to me, I thought it looked like 20. You know, I was making so much progress, but when you lose weight fast, you don't see it. People
No.
probably think the opposite. And so I wanted to ask you, without me saying, you know, what
Yeah.
happened to me, because I do want coaches listening to this podcast. We've got a 50-50 mix, and I do want regular everyday people listening to hear the experience from someone that needed to lose the weight, like you said. Like, it was like about kind of probably like life or death. I don't know
Yeah.
what your biomarkers were like, if you had high blood pressure, high blood glucose, but like sometimes we just got to be able to move. And if that's nutrition only, that's where you start.
Yeah, exactly. And you do what you're comfortable with, and you do what can work for you, right? That's huge. And I think like enforcing kind of our own experiences or our biases on you know, our clients isn't the right way to do it, because everyone's in a different position, different space, different headspace even. And so it's really important to talk to your clients and really figure out where they're at, and just meet them where they're at and start there, and small steps and consistency all the way, right? And I get you. I know, you know, it was difficult. I'm 5'4" too, so I'm not super tall either. And I felt like it was like waddling around, and like I said, going up the steps was hard, and I never really went anywhere either. And it was post pandemic as well, so that didn't make the situation any better.
So when people probably saw you after like not seeing you much, they probably were like, oh my gosh, like
Probably
you
I'm sure they were.
transformed so much. Because, you know, like after the pandemic, I mean, it kind of could have went either way. You know, a lot of people were like buckling down and doing workouts. Is what we were doing.
Yeah.
We were like doing free workouts. We were, you know, writing them, putting them on Instagram so people had things to do. And then a lot of people are still struggling with weight gain that happened in the pandemic because of just all kinds of things, uncertainty, emotional stuff. People were reliving trauma at home
Yeah.
just because they had more time to think and, you know, more idle, changing the way they were eating. activity went down. I mean, it could have went either way, but I'm sure people were like, "Oh my God, she's changed so much."
Yeah, it's funny because I'll go back to what I think people were thinking in the comments I got, but when I started when my son wasn't quite one yet.
Mhm,
And so it's still postpartum, and the stuff that, like, the shit that I was dealing with, I started I started my journey probably at the worst time possible, what people would think the most. Post pandemic, having a baby in the pandemic, not having any family support, living away from family.
mhm,
So loneliness, I have hypothyroidism. I had a alcohol dependency issue, obviously being severely overweight and the highest I had ever been,
mhm.
sleep, uh, 40 plus, you name it. So I had a lot of things that I was dealing with when I first started this journey. But and so when people did see me, going back to that, especially when they saw my before, more so when they see some of my before pictures, they just didn't see it. Some people
Mm,
are, maybe they don't see it. Maybe I
yeah.
covered myself up well because I wore sweaters a lot. I had a lot of cardigans. I have a whole
A whole wardrobe?
yeah, I have a whole bin sitting there that I haven't brought myself up to donating yet. So that's another thing. Um, but yeah, they were surprised. They were surprised to see me. And the comments came more after than they did prior or
Mm,
during. When they saw me, it came more like now that I've lost the weight.
yeah. Did you ever get any comments of, did you lose too much? Or like,
Oh, let's go there.
is it go? I got that. I was a size 16 and people were like, stop losing weight. And I'm like, yeah, tell me what were
Yeah,
people
yeah,
saying?
yeah, I get that. Oh, that's enough now. That's enough. It's like, no, I know when it's enough. Like, and I went to get my eyebrows done yesterday, like threading.
Yeah,
And even the eyebrow lady, and maybe it is a culture thing because in our
it
culture,
is. It is.
it is, right? Even growing up, just I was just saying they literally will look you up and down and be like, "Oh, you gained weight," or "Wow, you've gained a lot of weight," or "Wow, look at you, you've lost a lot of weight." The tone changes, right? It goes
Hmm.
from
Yeah.
somber to happiness. But even just yesterday, "Oh, wow, like, oh, that's a lot. Like, you think that's enough now?" And I I just laughed, and then we went to, "Oh, well, so how did you do?" Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I can't explain it to you in like 5 minutes, but
No, no, no,
it
no.
it
Like I know it has it ever been people that have said, when are you going to stop? It's enough. And then later they're like, can you help me?
exactly, right? Within the same conversation, within the same conversation. It doesn't bother me anymore. It's like, I don't care what you
It's
think.
normal.
Fine.
It's like so
Yeah,
normal. And you
it
will have
is.
some of the like biggest naysayers, even kind of like negative, maybe haters, they will probably become some of your best clients. So if they have not yet, they will.
Okay.
Because that is what happened to me. People told me to stop. Um,
Yeah.
at size 14, I think it was really at 12, I got like some big time comments. But I also can like compact my weight well. Same
Right.
thing. People were like, I didn't really think you were that big till I saw the side by side and like, whoa. I
Then
even
you're like, oh,
had,
okay.
yeah. I even had one time where it was either my mother or one of my good friends said that they found a photo of me 10 years ago that was from 15 plus or something. And they said they found it and they buried it in this like photo bin box, like I've got behind me. And they said the thing that came to their mind was, I'm never showing, because it was like so awful to them. Like, wow,
Wow.
changed so much. They were like, I just buried it in a box.
Like they're
And I'm
afraid you're gonna go back, right? Like they're not sure.
I'm like, I'm still standing. We're still
Yeah.
here, like, plus or minus 10 pounds. Like, that's gonna
Yeah.
be like normal, but like that's what happens. Have
Okay.
people asked you if you've had surgery, and like, do you get some of those questions from people you haven't seen in a long time?
I think I'll see. I'm going back home. I mean, home's not too far. It's like an hour and a half flight, but just haven't
Mhm.
been. So it'll be a year when I go back, and it'll be probably even more of a difference than it has been. So I'm sure I'll get the questions. But sorry, I totally just went over my head now. What was it that you asked?
Oh, does anybody go
Oh,
like, did you have surgery? Must, or
oh,
even
okay.
comments, must have had surgery. There's no way, blah, blah,
I
blah.
haven't I haven't yet. I'm sure with this whole social media thing, I'm sure it'll creep up in, my DMs or my comment section. I haven't yet, so we'll see. But I have people have asked if I have loose skin.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if you can relate. I know
Yep.
you've had surgery, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think yeah, I saw that. I uh thank genetics. Actually don't have a lot of loose skin, so the
Mhm.
elasticity's been really good for me. And any loose skin that I might have, oh well, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, if
Mhm.
it was excessive, I'm sure that I would have a different take on it and probably would want to do something about it. But I actually don't, so I'm fortunate for the genetics.
Mhm.
So
And
that's
now you're
that's
weight
definitely.
training, which helps.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So, yeah, so that's the only question that I've gotten so far as
Mhm.
that's
Do you
concerned.
feel like your body has changed a lot once you were able to start strength training?
Body composition wise, or just in
Yeah.
general, like
Mhm.
strength? Yeah, yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. I'm getting stronger, just progressively. I mean, you can consider me like a newbie, maybe because I hadn't worked out like, strength trained for over 20 years. But I feel it. I feel fitter. I don't know if that's how I explain it. I'm sure that's how a lot of other women would explain it, but I just feel
Mhm.
tighter. I feel stronger. I feel like not smaller, but I guess that, if you wanna look at it in terms of body composition, yeah, I do feel smaller.
Mhm.
But I'm starting to see some definition now. I still have some extra storage, but I'm not focusing on a fat loss phase now. I just went through a fat loss phase, so which was successful after a dedicated maintenance phase, which I hadn't really lived in ever. So
Mhm.
if that's something you want to talk about,
Oh, yeah, I'm glad that you
yeah,
brought it up because some people think that when people lose 100 pounds, I mean, and it can happen. Like a big chunk of mine, I was in a fat loss
yeah,
phase for a long time. Some people there's multiple ways that it ends up happening. Some people do it what I consider the right way, fat loss then maintenance and fat loss and maintenance till you get to the goal. Some are longer fat loss phases. That was me. It was definitely
yeah.
risky, which can lead to a higher chance of like gaining weight back. But what was it like actually finally like living in maintenance?
Oh, wow. I say this, I know I made a post about it because it was a really eye-opening experience. I know for my clients too, they've said it was just eye-opening and really it's life-changing for me because the freedom to finally be able to eat and, eat an amount that you don't feel deprived and eat things that you're not restricting anymore. So I was like you, I was in a fat loss phase for a really like an extended period of time in the beginning of my journey, but I also jumped in and out of unintentionally, I guess, out of the fat loss phases. So I would
Mhm,
throw myself out of a deficit pretty easily until I got more into learning about this nutrition and actual fat loss phases and maintenance myself. And then when I was training with Andrew, he was talking to me about it. He's like, go into maintenance, Dal, go into maintenance. And like all women, I'm still afraid if I go
yep,
into maintenance, I'm going to gain weight. Right. And so finally, I did decide to go into a dedicated maintenance phase. And yeah, that was just awesome because I was feeling better, feeling stronger in my lifts. Just general life was just better. And so when I went into this fat loss phase, which again was a dedicated fat loss phase, and so I understand now going in and out of fat loss and maintenance properly, the right way,
mhm,
why we do that. Because mentally, psychologically, you can set yourself up knowing that there's an end date and that you can commit to it and, just go for it, do it for as long as you can. And you always know you can go back into maintenance. And when you go back into maintenance, you're not going to gain fat.
Yeah.
Right. And that was huge, huge game
Mhm.
changer. And so when I got out of maintenance this time, I went right into, or got out of fat loss, I went right into maintenance and it was fine. It was great.
Yeah.
It's been great. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying it. And I learned so much. Maintenance for me, again, it's what I've learned going through this journey and going through the process itself, because it's not just about weight loss, right? And we can talk about this, and I'm sure you'll agree, it's just so much more. It's learning about food, it's learning about how to the tools, all of these tools that you learn throughout, and doing
Mm.
things step by step and slowly, and what you learn about yourself, like the personal growth and development, and just the inner, like the healing, like all of this came with that. And so living at maintenance kind of encompasses all of that for me. So it's not just the food itself or the food freedom, it's also that.
Yeah. I think it's easy for people in general to get wrapped up with a fat loss phase, like, especially if it's going well and you're like, oh, I'm finally like, hitting this goal of 40 pounds, 50 pounds, or whatever down. I think people can just find themselves like wrapped up and I got to keep going. I can get
Yeah.
more. Like, it can get kind of, I mean, it can
Sketchy.
get serious. Yeah, there's a lot of like mind fuckery that can like happen. And
Yeah.
you've got to be careful. Similar to competitors, they get so lean, they want to stay lean, they chase that leanness. But like you've got to learn to kind of like wrap it up and like let everything bounce back, let everything thrive, bring your metabolism back up, be able to grow, build muscle, because you're going to still lose some muscle in a fat loss phase, even when you're lifting, even when you're
Yep.
dedicated to hitting your protein. That's just like how it goes. Like you can't pick what's coming off where and how, but like this is a chance to like make it last. You're kind of just like sealing the deal on all of the work that you did. And if you need to lose more, like you can, but you learn a lot about yourself at maintenance. Like
Yeah.
it's insane. Like you learn so much, but once you hit maintenance after losing like that type of weight, it's rewarding. And then you realize how many decades in your case you thought you've spent wasting brain cells just thinking about fat loss all
Mhm.
time. You get a break.
And not to mention like all the damage you've done to your body over the years and to
Mhm.
your, like you said, to your brain, to your psyche, just the
Yeah.
way that you talk to yourself and how you perceive yourself, how you look at yourself in the mirror, all of this damage that's done by, you know, trying to chase quick fixes or quick fat loss. And yeah, it's mind blowing. And of course, now hindsight's 2020, I can sit here and reflect. And it's hard for even talking to my clients. I go, I know I talk to you, or we, you see this, you see my posts, and um, I me saying, don't worry, you'll get there, trust the process, trust yourself, you're going to learn the skills, you're going to have the confidence, it's all going to come together. They still have to actually go through it to experience it
Yeah.
themselves, and it's hard for them to read and say, yeah, no, that's possible. But as coaches, I think that's why it's so important. Just, if we can just get the client to do 6 weeks, like that's life changing. 6 weeks is enough time to give them that confidence and the ability to see that, yeah, there's another way, a better way. And yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Just,
Yeah. I think you wrote a post about it was something like maybe it was like the battle of weight loss or like the battle of the scale, but like the biggest battle you said was like the war going on between your ears, which means like the war in your mind.
yeah, exactly. Everything that we're thinking about, or going back to just how we talk to ourselves, all of that, it's everything that's going on in there. And coupled with, if we can, if there is a deeper issue, right? Like you need to somehow address that, whether it's through counseling or outside help that you need. But even just, it might not be so deep rooted, but enough where it's just the emotional eating and you can work with your coach. But if we can get to that, and you might not be able to get to that right in the beginning. It's something, again, that might come up slowly as you're going through the process, and why we need time with our clients just to kind of get to that point to be able to address those issues. But yeah, for sure, what's going on in between the ears is huge. For me, that was I knew was something that I had to deal with. I had to deal with what I was struggling with, my reasons for inaction. Why wasn't I taking the action? Like, I knew I everyone always says you're wise, you're wise, you're wise. Well, yeah, your kids are your wise. I get that, but
Mm-hmm.
like, no one can convince you to change. I have a post about that because it's so true. Even having my kids and thinking, I want them to live a life and experience life in a way that, they won't regret because of my actions. So if I don't feel good getting into a swimming pool, and so now they don't get to go experience the pool and having fun as a child, like, it's really sad, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
kept thinking that, but it still wasn't enough to push me to change, and then again, the day that I decided that, like, yeah, enough was enough. I have to do this. I have to change. I have to choose to do this, was really what it took for me to actually take that step forward and now, go about it this way, the way that I did. So yeah, a lot of internal stuff
I
that goes
know.
in
There
the
you go. Everybody wants like the secret to losing 100 pounds.
There it is, right? There is
Oh.
no secret, but it is, yeah, if we want to dissect it and simplify it, it's never going to be easy. It's super hard. It's really hard because with nutrition, you're thinking about it day in, day out. Like, you're making these
Yes.
decisions from morning until you go to bed, and then thinking about it when you get up. Whereas exercise, is just my opinion, and I've heard other people talk about it. But whereas exercise, it's just, maybe 3 hours a week, and then just you're walking or whatever it might be, 3 workouts a
Mm-hmm.
week. Um, and so, yeah, nutrition is just, it's on your mind all the time, and it's hard. It's really hard. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not gonna lie. So the secret, yeah, basics, the basics with consistency, yeah, it works. It definitely works, but you actually have to do it. You have to choose to do it, and you have to do it for a very long time. You have to do it for a lifetime, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
look at us,
Forever.
right? She's like,
I know.
forever,
I've been
forever.
maintaining my weight for a long time. Our one podcast just came out today. Like, it's still work. It's still
Yeah,
work for me. It's gonna be work
yeah.
in 5 years. It's gonna be work for me in 20 years, but like it's worth it.
Yeah, and I still struggle. Like, I am not saying all of a sudden now I've lost this weight and I'm like, oh yeah, life is all. No, it's not, because I have moments. I go through periods where I know I need to deal with shit, and like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, why are you doing this? Step back, stop, think. Like, why are you going towards this or wanting to do that? And yeah, it's a work in progress all the time. So it's not easy. Definitely not easy. Simple, yes, but not easy.
Yep. I say that all the time.
Right?
All the time. It's the same with
Yeah.
building your business. It's simple, but it's not easy. No,
Yeah.
keep showing
Yeah.
up. Keep
Yeah,
doing the reps.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. You got to put in the reps, right? And yeah, and that's maybe the most important piece of this conversation, I'd say, is the fact that going back to how we started it, was the quick fixes not the
Mm-hmm.
way to do it, right?
Yep, for sure.
It's it's for a lifetime. Just keep doing what you're doing every day, day in, day out. Yes, it's boring, the same, but guess
Yep. If
what?
it's
Life.
boring, you're doing it right.
Yeah, and if if it's boring and mundane, it means that you're setting yourself up so that you can enjoy life. You can enjoy all those occasions that really mean something, all of those memories that, things that in your past you haven't taken that picture, you're non-existent in pictures like I was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you don't immerse yourself in social functions, or you opt out of going places. Well, guess what? If you live this boring life, you can do all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So makes it that much easier and more enjoyable.
For sure. There you go.
Yeah.
So hopefully everybody's paying attention. Boring is good.
Yeah. Boring, boring, boring.
So where can everybody find you? I want to make sure you mention it here. We'll also put it into the show notes, but where do you like to hang out? Where people can find you, whether it's just for inspiration or if they're like, she's my next coach.
Oh, well, the best place and best platform would be Instagram. So Nutrition Coaching by Dal, DAL. That's where I'm at. And yeah, you can find me there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
this
Awesome.
was
Thank you so
fun.
much for being so honest and sharing. I definitely recommend that you guys do go follow her because she has a lot of content on her page that has like honest truths, and they're things that people want to hear. And you put honest truths up and like little quote cards and things like that. But in your captions, like you really dive deep because you are someone that has lost that much weight still pretty recently, and you remember what it feels like. So I definitely encourage people to go read your page and like just kind of like self-reflect as they read some of your stuff because it's really good.
Thank you. Yeah, I say like, oh, I don't journal, but I guess I kind of do because
You
my
do.
Instagram, my captions, and I have an issue with my captions being too long. So there you go.
Hey.
Yeah, captions is where it's at. Like that's where the bread and butter is,
Mhm.
for me. So yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Definitely. All right, you guys,
Fun.
make sure you go reach out, shoot her a message, ask some other questions that weren't on here. But like always, make sure you guys comment, like, and subscribe, and we will see you guys on the next one.
Thanks for listening to our podcast today. Make sure you like, share, and tag us on Instagram. Also, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss future episodes. In the meantime, be healthy and get wealthy.